Greetings. This is Boston G.B.R. on YouTube. And on my blog that I started around 1999, you can visit kvci.blogspot.com. That's kvci.blogspot.com. I started that blog years ago, way before I started doing videos. And I did that because I want you informed. This is the spotlight. And tonight I want to spotlight and make it right the fact that in Nazi Germany, the Jews are still tracking down people that had something to do with the killing of Jews, putting them in ovens, etc., etc. And this is such a paper, or article rather, published in the Valdosta Daily Times, 10A, Saturday, June 15th, 2013. Berlin Associated Press. Isn't it strange? We can report the news from the Associated Press in Berlin. Talks about a top commander of the Nazi SS who led a unit accused of burning villages filled with women and children, lied to American immigration officials to get into the United States. Be that as it may, I just want you to know that everybody can talk about their history, what happened to them. And it can be published in a very conservative paper, the Valdosta Daily Times. But what about your history? What about the Week of Terror? What do you hear about that Week of Terror? Earl Evans and many other deaths, not just Kendrick Johnson, but many others. We had better wake up to the realities of now. We had better think about sending our sons and daughters to fight in foreign nations, only to return home to find yourself being pulled over and being told that you have a criminal trespass warrant that you know nothing about, and your own rights here in the good old US of A have vanished in the cosmos. And even more sickening and more saddening is that the South Georgia news media will not even report your story because you're not important. They rather report a cat trapped in a tree. And so as your story go untold, go unpublished, in years to come, when they pick up the Valdosta Daily Times, they won't see nothing about your history. And so people will think that this is what happened during the days of our lives. But it's more like a lie, because you don't have nobody to tell your story. Unlike newspapers in the Albany Herald, I often go to Albany in America just to find some black news in the newspapers. In other words, these newspapers such as the Albany Herald, the America's Times Recorder, it seems to be more fair and balanced than our only local newspaper, the Valdosta Daily Times. And as I read the newspapers in America's, citizens' participation, it actually is published in the newspaper, but not here in Valdosta. You can stand before city council and county commissioners meeting for the most part, and what you put before your elected officials, it never shows up or seldom shows up in the newspaper, so everyday citizens will know and be educated about what's going on in their beloved community. And we should not complain about the newspapers and TV stations not telling your news, the things that affect you and others, blacks and poor whites and others around the nation. Many newspapers across America are not one-sided. And they don't even use the term, well, we fair and balanced. They just do it. They just put it in print. They hire a diverse group of people to work in their newspapers. And so it makes the community feel good when they feel like they are a part of the economic pie, the political pie, etc., etc., etc. And as I said, I read various newspapers. I don't always talk about them in the past, but I'm going to talk about them more. The Equipment Free Press, I'm from Brooks County. Been in existence since 1876. But when you pick this paper up, and everybody in Brooks County knows it, it's not like people don't know what's going on. You'll hear people on the street talk about, well, we're not included in the Equipment Free Press, so we don't buy the paper. Many people say the same things about our only newspaper here in Valdosta. They say, I don't buy it because what's in it don't affect me. It's like as if though we are not even a part of the city of Valdosta, Lowndes County, Georgia. And I have been trying to do my best to give you the best because you deserve no less. And so when you go to City Hall here in Valdosta, Georgia, the first floor, I want you to look at all the pictures on the first floor of Valdosta City Hall. When you are here and you are visiting Wild Adventures Theme Park, Georgia Military College, Wiregrass Technical College, Kinderloo Golf Course, Francis Lake Golf Course, or if you're stationed at Valdosta, at Moody Air Force Base, or if you're bringing your children to attend Valdosta State University, go down to City Hall here in Valdosta on the first floor. Look at the buildings. That is a replica of what happened in the 1800s and 1900s. Then ask yourself, how could it be that no black buildings, no black accomplishments are listed in that building or displayed except for the Tuskegee Airmen there at the foot of the stairwell? And this is something that has been brought up for 3.5 years. We stood before City Council and brought this up to our elected officials. When our children come from W.G. Nunn, S.L. Mason, or they have children and grandchildren from Valdosta State University and they want to go to City Hall, how do little black and white right children feel when they don't see no pictures, no buildings of the black experience? It's as if though we are back in the 1930s or 40s. How does that make our city look in the eyes of the outside world in 2013? I have pleaded with a couple of mayors and elected officials about this, but they don't see any value in that. They don't think that our children need to see something that we contributed here in the Cotton Belt of the Deep South. This is not hate. Jesus said in St. John 8:32, and ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free. Jesus also said, want for your neighbor that which you want and have for yourself. And if you are included, why shouldn't you want other people included? Not only black and white. You just might need to put some Latinos in there as well. But why can't we be diverse and represent all the people all the time? This is the spotlight, and we want the spotlight to be right because we want you bright in your darkness. In your darkness, not in terms of good and evil, but in your darkness of black, white, red, are all colors, and they are all precious in God's sight. And that's what make it right. When we can do what God did and recognize that we are all precious in His sight. I just went over to America's last weekend. And once again, you go, and I know the story behind this newspaper, but I won't tell it here today. I'll tell it later. Then again, I might tell it. But the bottom is that I'm sure that the black people in America can feel good, that they can find something in their newspaper that they can identify with. It may be crime, it may be drugs, it may be the educational arena, it may be good, it may be bad, it may be buying some automobiles, it may be who receive property losses, etc., etc. But at least somebody cares enough to try and keep the populace informed. Not just a few, but everybody. For we all make up the South Georgia area. And do you not know that when President Barack Obama won his second bid for the office of president, our only newspaper, the Valdosta Daily Times, did not even carry his picture in the newspaper. The Equipment Free Press, no front page coverage. Thomasville Enterprise, no front page coverage. Madison, no front page coverage. But I am happy that when I go to Americas, it gives me hope. It's not a metro city like Valdosta, but I can say one thing. Somebody over there knows how to read, and if they don't, well, that's their business. But here in Valdosta, just one newspaper. A metro city. Home to Moody Air Force Base. Valdosta State University. Titletown, USA. Just one newspaper. And this is in 2013. And pretty soon, it may go out of business. And then we may not have any. Well, the question remains, what are we doing? I can't blame the Valdosta Daily Times. I commend them. If we didn't have them, we wouldn't have any. I just think we need some more newspapers in Valdosta that will be more diverse, that will pull pull information off the Associated Press and publish it. That's what the newspapers in America does. They just put it, if it's dealing with black people and other cutting edge issues, they just put it off and publish it so people will know what's going on in their world. They don't want just a one-sided view, as if though there's only one political party view. And it's sad, really, when you think about Moody Air Force Base. Black, white, Jew, Gentile, Protestant, Catholic, Japanese, German. Hey, look, they all are in the Air Force. They all are in the Marine Corps. They all are in the Army. They all are in the Navy. The President of the United States, he's not just there to represent Republicans. He's there to represent all of us. And for us as Democrats to criticize a sitting Republican should not even be on our agenda. But that's what is happening today. If you're not in my party, then you are a Hitler. You are the Antichrist. You are Beelzebub. You are Satan. You're an evil man. You can't do nothing right. God made a mistake by letting you come from your mother's womb, unless you're in the same political party as I am. In fact, from listening to Glenn Beck, my beautiful brother Hannity, black female columnist Star Parker, Nia Bork, and a host of others. They seem to be saying that if you are not in agreement with the president of a different political party, that you should not join the armed forces. In other words, if you don't believe in the executive commander-in-chief, then you shouldn't join the military until your political party elects a president that you can serve under in the Air Force, Marine, Army, Coast Guard, or whatever. That's the precedent that are being set. When you hear retired generals, even here in Valdosta, strike out with such levels of venom against the commander-in-chief of the men and women in uniform who must follow his orders or her orders into combat and be willing to die, and yet they criticize. They criticize that commander-in-chief. So how can we say that we are true patriots when we can't respect those in power that are against our political or religious views? Listen. In the America's Sumter Observer, you will see a picture on page 4A. And it is a picture of the Lowndes County Sheriff. Headline reads, "With feds reviewing Johnson's case, changes for recall of Lowndes Sheriff increases." June 2013. It's a pretty long article, isn't it? Well, in this article, it talks about a possible recall from citizens who believe there's a great possibility that the sheriff might have violated his oath of office. Now, I could read all this and, well, let me read some of it, I guess. But it talks about the requirement for a recall of a sheriff. It says the official has, while holding office, this the sheriff, conducted himself or herself in a manner which relates to and adversely affects the administration of his or her office and adversely affects the rights and interests of the public, and 2, that official has also committed an act or acts of malfeasance while in office, violated his or her oath of office, committed an act of misconduct in office, failed to perform duties prescribed by law, or willfully misused, converted, or misappropriated without authority public property or public funds entrusted to or associated with the relative office to which the official has been elected or appointed. And we could go on, but I'll stop there. Now, this was published in the America's Sumter Observer. I was over there, I picked this paper up because I wanted to know. In fact, I bought all the papers they had. I mean, one of each one, I mean. Because I want you to know something. when children who may chase or look and research, even across the nation, what happened in June 2013, this will be part of it because it's in the newspaper or it was reported on television. But what would our children find in the newspaper about a retired military veteran being banned, prohibited, restricted, denied the right to attend a public meeting here in Valdosta city limits and in Lowndes County, Georgia, in the state of Georgia, and in the United States? How will our children find out that George Rhymes, myself, that's me, had violated no law, yet out of the department of this Sheriff Prime, a deputy on the street with witnesses on the corner or entranceway to Lowndes County 2013 graduation, heard the police officer when he said this to me, and then it was over the radio, the deputy's radio, that I had been on a criminal trespass warning for 2 weeks. Now, to save time and cut through the red tape and the blue tape, I went to our only local newspaper, being that it's a newspaper, and I asked them, are you concerned about the citizens' rights and having a right to be a servant of the people, in that you want to educate them on the issues? I have yet for our only daily newspaper to call me or to investigate why a citizen of Valdosta in Lowndes County could be stopped by a member of law enforcement out of all the cars that were attending the Lowndes County High School ceremony, and it not be news. In addition to that, even more shocking, or should be, is that there was other people who have a story to tell along these same lines. But if the newspaper don't report it, Jack Kingston a few weeks ago wrote in the Equipment Free Press, and I've quoted him already, but he quoted in the Equipment Free Press in his viewpoint that he loves the local papers. He said if it's not published in the newspaper, then it didn't happen. That's the biggest joke in town. And it's definitely the biggest joke in South Georgia. For we know that is not the truth, my beautiful Secretary of State. But we're going to, not Secretary of State, Secretary of State, Brian P. Kemp. And by the way, speaking of Brian P. Kemp, there was a public meeting over in Quitman, Brooks County, wherein there was a lot of irregularities, and Brian P. Kemp sent Glenn Austin, his investigator out of Macon, to come over and listen to the citizens with complaints about what was going on at the Board of Elections and people's names being left off of the ballot, along many other things. And after the Secretary of State investigator came, we don't know any results of any investigation. It was like as if though we didn't even exist. It wasn't published in the newspaper. But I have it published on my YouTube channel. Just Google Equipment 10. I'm going to continue to do what I do, because I know your sons and your daughters are going to put on a uniform, and they're going to go into the armed forces, and they're going to put their lives on the line, and they're going to fight They're going to bleed, some of them. And many going to die fighting for the rights of foreigners while their own rights are going to hell in a hat basket. And so, as a retired veteran, after 20-some years, I must tell you the truth, because Jesus said, "And ye shall know the truth, and that the truth shall set and make you free." This is the Spotlight. I am George Boston Rhymes, and I do what I do because I truly, truly love you. And so, as Nazi Germany mistreated the Jews, the Jews are trying to find them wherever they are. In Quitman, Georgia, many blacks have been killed, murdered, lynched, etc., etc. And it's one reason why some people don't believe the report concerning Kendrick Johnson. But we are going to sit back, and we're going to let the God of our ancestors deal with that. And in the end, we're going to rest assured that truth, right, and justice will once again reign supreme here in the United States of America. And we're going to close now. I want you to know I do what I do because somebody got to truly be the patriots of this dispensation as those of yesterday. And they went far beyond Democrat, Republican, black, and white. They strived to do what was right. And only when we can see each other in God's true light will we measure up to the scales and balance and the cross of Calvary. Bye-bye. We're gone.